Pretty excited about our topic today. Welcome to Coffee Experts. It's fine to be
welcome.
Great, gentlemen. Hey, so today we're going to talk about something pretty rare to coffee experts, pretty rare in business in general, but it's literally how to grow money in your business based upon a current traffic count. You know, that you always hear people talk about, I could grow, what if we just branch out into this? We could add boba, we could do whatever. What if we added these bakery items? What if we, started serving hamburgers, like whatever it is that they're going to start doing, like try a new product line. But in the end, the product line is still at a risk, right? You're buying cost of goods, right? You're having to teach your people a new skill set that could jack with your workflows. Like that could actually end up damaging what's actually working great for you right now, right? So all those things, ways to try and increase your business through product lines can be risky. One of the most beautiful things I think we've ever done at the Collab team is help coffee shops create their own proprietary processes. And specifically, the two that we've done most of is energy drinks and brown drinks. Like, I think that those are two that it's like pretty much if you're a coffee shop and you're not offering energy drinks at this point, you're missing so many dollars. You're letting so many dollars go out the door. And obviously there are those of you out there that are purists, right? Where you're like, I'll never let an energy drink into my coffee only. I only do pour overs. Whatever you want to do, however you want to do your thing. I have yet to see a coffee business that's slaying it, that leans only to a purist model. But man, I could be wrong. I haven't seen every coffee shop out there, but I will say this, is that from our experience, at least 50% of those frequenting coffee shops that we consult with do energy drinks. Like at least 50% of those coming through the doors are energy drink consumers. Now, I'm not an energy drink consumer. I don't know how, Ben, are you an energy drink consumer?
Haven't had one in like 5 years.
You consume energy drinks?
I'm a purist.
Yeah, so here's the deal. It's like, Drew's not even eating meat right now, but it's like, here's the deal. It's like, when it comes down to it, sometimes I think we as owners, we as people running businesses can put our own personal preferences on our customers. I would never drink that. I'm never going to serve that, or man, that stuff is like liquid death. I would never give anybody that. But guys, so is sugar. Like, I don't know if we realize that, but like, if there's one thing science has proven over and over again, it's that sugar pretty much feeds any negative thing in your body that you don't want to grow. Sugar is like a great source of ramping that thing through the ceiling, So if you're serving sugar, anything, you probably should look that a little bit square in the face. I only whatever you do, like all I'm saying is, do you want to be successful as a coffee business? You need to look at all your options. So from our experience, people serving energy drinks serve a lot of them. And if you've already established that your people want energy drinks, if you've already established that people want frat, then the bottom line is why would you keep paying a middleman for something you can create yourself? Choose one of your highest dollar line items and ask yourself, is there a cost of goods in there that I could produce for myself that would allow me to keep my pricing just as high, but literally drop the floor out of my cost of goods and grow money? Like, where can you do that in coffee businesses? Like, where can you do that in any business? How can you keep your premium, right, your retail price, but drop your floor up to 5 times the amount is what we've seen. And I'm going to show you the mechanics behind it. We're going to talk about real live living examples of how we've done that as the Collab team for coffee clients. But my challenge to you is this today. Come to it with an open mind. Maybe you're totally anti-energy drink. I get it. I don't drink them either. But what I will say is a lot of people do. And a lot of people don't like coffee. Now, I know that maybe that's like screaming heresy, like in the middle of a coffee experts club. But there are a lot of people that don't dig coffee. So then if you're only serving coffee, you're limiting your clientele base. Whereas if you could just give somebody a caffeine alternative, and you've provided a good atmosphere for them to come and get it, be it through your baristas or products that you're serving, or maybe even food solutions that you're offering. I mean, there's a lot of reasons people would come to you. Why not increase your customer base with something like this, especially something that you could grow such radical profit from? What do you guys have to say about that?
I would just encourage the coffee shop owners to look, stretch their imagination a little bit. Most coffee shop owners that I know and have known that we've worked with, they do a really great job of going, you know what? I don't need a middleman for my beans. I'll roast my own coffee. Like that's already there. It's already thought in your head. Just extrapolate that out a couple more times. If you're thinking about getting into roasting, That's a real quick way to cut the cost out of your coffee. Okay, what is another product that's just as big of a seller that you can cut that middleman out of? Energy drinks is an obvious next step because you know the cost of savings from roasting your own coffee, from purchasing it wholesale from another roaster. Like you've seen that, like multiply that by 4 or 5 more, and you've got energy drinks. Same thing with frat mix. So it's kind of like, don't stop just at roasting your own coffee. That's a great place to start too. But like looking at all of the products that you offer, where are my top selling products? Where am I buying the bulk of my goods? And then how can I just produce those goods myself? Energy drinks and frat mix are a great way to do that.
And how much does it suck to have to rely on someone for something you need in life in general, but specifically to make money in business? You know, at some point you decided you wanted to go into business and work for yourself and rely on yourself. So as much as you can take that into your own hands and be your own self, it's taking yourself seriously, expanding your branding and reaching more customers. And there is a never ending amount of customers out there, depending on, you know, the quality of the product and the diversity of the product. You know, it's endless.
Yeah. I think especially the thing that I always think through is, I mean, we should be asking ourselves these questions, and on Coffee Experts, if you've been traveling with us thus far, I mean, you've heard us talk over and over again about efficiencies, like efficiencies, like look at your labor costs. How can you be efficient? Look at your car times. How can you be efficient? This COGS is, we did a whole show around cost of goods and how you can be efficient. So I think that whether it's going back to your vendors and asking for better pricing, I think you should be doing that, especially after you've established a certain coffee, you know, like a certain amount of volume, or if you've multiplied, right? Like keep going back. If you're opening up a new location, you've opened up a new opportunity to talk to a vendor, because you're gonna have to call them and tell them about the new location anyway and say, hey, I'm about ready to double what I'm gonna get from you. What can you do for me for pricing, right? Like this, it always be looking for places you can look for pricing, but there does come a point where, what are you hoping for? Like a 2 to 5% decrease? Like what are you hoping for? Like what are you hoping they're going to tell you back? And you can only like strong arm your vendors so much. You can only shift milk vendors so many times between you've exhausted all of your milk options. Like, so you saved as much as you can on dairy. You know what I'm saying? You can only shift into a different dry goods supplier so many times to maybe whittle down by those few cents you can get. I'm going to show you a sheet and we're going to talk through the mechanics of it. But we're talking about going from like $1.45 a can of Red Bull, and it's higher than that by now. That's just the metrics we use when we put all this together. Going from $1.45 per can of Red Bull and dropping it all the way down. We've got it down as low as 17 cents for the same amount of fluid ounces. So ask yourself, where can you cut that kind of money out of? We're talking about a 500% change, like to get between those two numbers. Where can you do that? Nothing. There's nothing else you can do. So Ben's right. Start with beans, like start with roasting. We'll always advocate for that, right? Otherwise, you're really subject to a lot of export, import, especially because that stuff's coming from a long way away. So try and get down to the green so that you're just handling the COGS as low as you can get them. Then look at some of your other vendors, right? Especially if you're onesie, twosie shops, I would say that's the first place to stop. You started your first one, you're starting your second one, look for roasting, look for whittling down your vendors, where you're getting your supplies from. But as soon as you start hitting 3 stores and you've established a solid traffic count, that's the time to start looking towards energy drinks. And so we're going to talk through the mechanics of it. We're going to talk about how we rolled it out. I'm going to be very plain at the beginning and say, I advocate very openly for bag-in-a-box, soda gun, distributed energy drinks. The reason for that is in a coffee application, when do you ever put a can out your window? Like when do you ever put a can across your counter? Bottom line is, most people aren't coming in asking you, hey, could I get a Red Bull? What they're asking for is for you to mix Red Bull into a cup with some other flavors and put it out your window with ice or blended, right? That's how it's going. So the downside to creating your own energy drink still in a can is that you're paying so much hard costs for a piece of material that this is what you do with a can in a coffee shop. Pop, pour it into a cup, throw it away, right? So then you take all this cost and all this commitment, right? Because putting things in cans costs money, especially right now with aluminum the way it is, right? So you put all this money into cans, you put all this time into getting it to you because you have to commit to cans way ahead of time, whereas bag-in-the-box is faster to get to you. And then for what? You're not even putting a beautiful product out the window, right? Because you have to coat your cans. So you're paying for all that marketing wrapped up in a can that people never even see. So why would you put money there? Why wouldn't you save that money, put it back in your pocket, put it towards more energy drinks that's going to make you more money rather than just burning money? So, and not to mention, once you turn it into trash, that just becomes another thing your people have to deal with, right? We've all dealt with our baristas dragging trash bags out across our parking lot and dripping fluid all the way over there. Like, you're just creating another opportunity for that to happen over and over again, right? And bottom line is the carbon footprint on the planet. Like if you're trying to go more green, like why would you contribute to that when you don't need it? And now if you're going to put them in grocery stores, you're going to try and sell them someplace else, maybe. But I'm just talking right now exclusively about creating for the demand you've already created, already established. You're selling 1,500 energy drinks a month. Like, so my encouragement to you is this: take that 1,500 and drop it 500% in your COGS and put that money in your pocket. For us, we've seen our clients, our case study, we saw from just the first year of savings of switching over to their own energy drink, they were able to open 2 new locations just off of what they saved in moving to their own energy drink. That's outrageous. That's like highway robbery. Like I just got to increase my buying power by 2, my gross income by 2, my job and profitability by 2. By what? Just cutting a cog, just creating my own energy drink. So anyway, we're going to talk about it and also talk about the pros and the cons. There are definitely pros and cons, right? I'm giving you all the pros, like who doesn't want to grow money? Who doesn't love the idea of opening 2 new locations off of savings? But there are pain points. There are pain points to soda guns. There are pain points to adding another piece of machinery in your location. We're going to talk through all those things. Let me sell you on it first, and then we'll talk about the cons at the back end. So I'm going to share my screen. And gents, I would just invite you to jump in wherever you want to jump in today. I know most of the demonstration today is me. I love your guys' feedback.
Yes.
So this is a spreadsheet that I created that just kind of pronounces the reason why to go with your own energy drink. I'm going to increase it just for the sake of looking at the image right now, and then we'll shrink it back down. So this is the comparable, right? This is my my fun little jab at Red Bull. So their energy drink, they control the cost and you pay too much. You pay to advertise, but their brand benefits. You grow sales, but they profit. Their energy drink costs you about $1.45 per unit, which is about $34,800 annual cost per store. And that's just off of a moderate store. We didn't go radical, mid-volume store. $38,000 you're paying per store in energy drinks. Your energy drink, you control the cost and you save. You pay to advertise and your brand benefits, and then you grow your sales and you profit. So your energy drink, this says 26 cents a unit. I'm going to show you how to get it down to 17, but this is me being conservative. This is me. All right. I'm always the skeptic. I'm always like, yeah, smoke and mirrors. What else you got to tell me about? What are you trying to sell me today? Right. This is me being super conservative at 26 cents per unit so that you don't have to gamble. I'm not a gambler. Ben Clatterbuck and I have talked about this loads of time. We're not gamblers, but we will hedge our bets. If there's something we know there can be a return, we're willing to put ourselves out there, but prove to us what we can do with it before we put our money up to it. So 26 cents per unit, which is about $6,240 annual cost per store, which is about $28,000 worth of savings, right? So you just take this number, subtract this number to get your savings per year one. And our case study, $314,106 savings company-wide in year one. That's for 11 stores at a conservative amount. Now, this is not actually our case study number. This is just using our case study as the example. For them, they had some high consumers. So it gained that number. Their savings was actually somewhere in the middle of $450,000 in savings year one, which will justify them opening 2 new locations. So if you slide this sucker down, I'm going to shrink our font back down because you don't need to see it that high here. So what this whole sheet, and you can ask me for it, you can just email in hq@thecollabteam.com, or you can hit us up on Facebook in the Coffee Experts group. I'll send this over to you. But essentially this smart sheet, or this sheet that is smart, because I'm going to show you actually a smart sheet. I've taken all the math and done it for you and made it divisible by a multiplier. So essentially I've told you what it's going to cost at 3 stores. There is cost in creating your own energy drinks. And that cost, the beauty of the cost though, is you're not just paying a company and saying, please make me an energy drink. What you're saying is you're going to pay multiple companies a total of about 30 grand to be able to make yourself, we would say about 3 to 6 months worth of energy drink in your hand. So it's like paying for energy drink in advance that you're going to then be putting out your window for the first 3 to 6 months. And then you have to buy another batch, but the next batch is going to be missing some of the hard costs like equipment. You're not going to have to pay for that twice. you know, graphic artist designing your stuff. You're probably not gonna have to pay for that twice. Creation house, there's going to be some costs that are cut out of that because there is some initial setup cost with the creation house creating your own proprietary drink. But what you own in the end is your own proprietary drink. Nobody else can produce that. Only you can produce that. That's tied to your name. You can make that as many times as you want, and all you're going to be paying for is the ingredients. Yep. So I think that it's the beauty is of this sheet is, and it's going to break it down here for you, but 53 cents per unit. And I'm using the term unit because I'm not talking cans. I'm talking here per cup, you know, but if you use the word cups, people get tangled. If you use the word cans, people say, I thought you aren't 4 cans. It's just per unit, per cup you're filling. 53 cents on your initial order and 20 cents per unit on every order after, removing initial hard costs, which is averaged about 36 cents. But I'm telling you, like, we've gotten it actually cheaper than this first set of numbers. So the cool thing about this is, and it tells you down here at the bottom, what I feel like it's good to understand what we talk about. High volume store, I'm saying is like 3,500 units a month. Now our case study actually consumed 4,600 units a month. So even here I'm being conservative. That is theirs. This is Red Bull. This is yours. That's the realized saving. For a mid-volume store, which what this whole sheet is built on, I'm saying about 2,000 units, but our case study had 2,600 units. That was their mid-size store. And there was realized savings of a little over $2,000 a month. And then a low volume store is 1,600. Our case study showed it about 2,000. So there's a savings of about 1,700. So those are all savings per location that you can ratchet up. And then you say, well, Aaron, I've got 8 locations. What does that do? Well, that does grow your number here, but it's because you're buying more energy drink to supply for those 8 stores. So that's the only reason that's going up. There's none of your fixed costs are going up. That's just pure ingredient costs that are going up. And then you can see the realized savings number changes here too. So this whole sheet's designed to be gamed based upon how many stores you have. There's a bunch of data on the next sheet behind it where it talks about, full disclosure, I give you everything. We did it first time cans, and this is what it cost us to run cans. And this was back in 2018 was the first year we tried to do it with cans. So imagine how much aluminum has gone up in 4 years. So this was back then, and you can see here, like can cost, you know, equates to about 50 grand if you're going to do cans. If you take that out, that's literally 50 grand you're saving, period, full stop. There's no other way to say that. So there's a lot of savings to be had when you move to bag in a box. The actual columns just show you this is what they told us it would be, this is what it actually became, this is what they told us it would be, this is what we actually paid. And as you slide down, you know, we've got everything factored in, shipping, storage, and delivery in case you use a distribution house for it, and then the realized savings you can get out of it. So here you can see we got it down to 17 cents per can on the actuals, which we said average is 26 cents. Why? Because 17 cents per can after you've got the initial hard cost removed. It was 35 cents per can per unit before that. So an average is 26. So I think there's a lot of powerful things going on here. And we can go into it deeper. Some people get really overwhelmed by the data. I just show you it to show you it's all there. If you want to see it, like I'm not just messing around with numbers. These are hard costs. This is me pulling back the veil, showing you what we do, showing you how we get there. Do you guys have thoughts to say about this? What are your guys' thoughts on this sheet? And do you have any questions or things that come to mind, or you think that people might have on their mind as we talk about this?
I think initially, of course, when I was first learning about this and when we first dove into this, it can seem a little bit intimidating because it's a big number up front. But if you're thinking about the costs associated with the amount of product you're putting out the window for 3 to 6 months, it's equivalent. And then the realized savings are just 100% realized savings after that, which is a huge benefit. And so when you do look at it from the perspective of, oh, I'm spending all this money, it's like it's shock value. But when you would look at it as I'm saving all this money, it's the opposite, but it's still shock value. Like, oh my gosh, I could buy a new car, you know?
I'd like to highlight too on your data section there, that $48,000 in cans. That is literally, like you said, you're throwing that money in the garbage can. Like your barista every day is taking that can and throwing it away. You're paying $48,000 for them to throw something in the trash if you're going to can that.
Yes. I mean, which is so crazy, but I've had a lot of conversations with people, even that are creating their own energy drinks. They're insisting still to go with cans, and they use the justification of quality control. Well, listen, isn't it hard to bricks those soda machines? Isn't it hard to make sure that the product always turns out equal? You know, we've all been to, mini marts or restaurants where they've got a soda gun machine or a soda machine where you're filling up your Dr. Pepper or whatever, and the syrup count versus water count is bad, and you take a drink and you're like, that was terrible, like this is awful, and people compare that to their energy drink, right? And they're like, I don't want my stuff turning out like that. What I'll always tell people is this is, for 50 grand, pay somebody to full-time just quality control that your soda gun is turning out right? What could you use 50 grand to do? What if you put that towards a full-time technician that only worked on your equipment if you haven't done that yet? You just created a job. You just created a job for somebody that's going to service all your machines. You don't have to pay a third party anymore. They're just going to take care of your machines and make sure all your soda guns are bricked correctly. They could come every single day. Have them come there every day and taste your soda. Like let's make sure it's going to turn out right. But in the end, like Ben said, 50K is 50K. And this isn't even 50K a year. This is 50K per batch, right? So we just told you 3 to 6 months. The reason why when we came up with this whole process, we did it for our case study roasters coffee. And when we did it for Wes, it was his realization of every month I'm paying 40 grand to Red Bull. Every month times 12 months a year. You do the math, right? So how could I create my own energy drink? Anything I do is going to have to bang that number down, right? Anything I do has got to compromise that number. And so if you've already established that traffic count, you've already realized your people want it, which is the best kind of thing to create, because you don't have nothing to lose. The biggest thing most people are afraid of is, what if it doesn't taste the same? The beauty of creating your own energy drink is the creation house makes it the way you want it. How do you want it to taste? They're going to send you sample after sample. That's too carbonated. That's too sweet. That's not sweet enough. I want it a little bit more like this. Or some people have said, Aaron, I don't want to make it like death fluid. I don't want to make it like a Red Bull equivalent. There's a lot of carcinogens in there. I don't want that. So maybe, can I make it from all natural things? That's the beauty of an energy drink. You can make it whatever you want. You want to go with only natural flavors. You want to go with only natural products. Now that may increase your ingredient costs, and you need to be aware of that. Obviously, if you're paying for natural stuff, a lot of times that's more expensive than chemical stuff. So things to be thinking through. But the beauty of an energy drink creation process is it becomes exactly what you want, served to your own traffic count that you've already established, and it can be something you can be proud of. It's your own thing. You've made something that makes you proud. And so up here, this is the siphon that gives you all of the numbers. So 263,700 cans is what you can ship on one truck for a semi rig. So that was what we ordered the first time. So that became the rule of thumb of what I used across this whole sheet, because you needed an original siphon number. And so depending on how fast you're going to go through 260,000 units, cups of energy drink dictates how long it's going to take you to batch through that. You've heard me say 3 to 6 months. For roasters, it was about 3 months worth of product, because they batch through so many energy drinks, like they could turn that really quick. But if you're a smaller coffee chain, or if you only have a few shops, that could last you 6 or 9 months maybe, and then it's stretched out. But especially if we're talking every batch and you've got a decent sized chain, if you're doing 2 or 3 of those a year, you're talking about 150K just in cans. That what could you do with an extra 150K? I would say if your biggest concern is quality control, bring somebody on to handle quality control at 50K a year, and realize that in one batch of energy drinks, you just paid for yourself to have an in-house technician. Yep. And see where it goes from there.
Love it.
What else, Drew? Anything else that comes to mind just looking at this sheet, or Ben?
Well, thinking about technicians, the baristas, at least in my experience, they do have a little technical knowledge. And when you have those special baristas that have a lot more technical knowledge than the other ones, opportunity arises. And it's always nice to bring somebody up from within. But every machine needs to be maintained at some level every single day. Yep. Even down to if you're using syrup spouts, you got to soak the syrup spouts every day. And so yep. A little maintenance every day goes a long ways, especially with these things. A little bit of maintenance, a little bit of control, teaching everybody what it's supposed to taste like, what it's supposed to look like. It's a process. But it's doable and very worth it to have everybody know what the energy drink is supposed to taste like.
Yeah, and I'm going to take you guys through the process of how we develop energy drinks for clients. Obviously, this isn't something you need us to help you do. You could do this on your own. I do think, like anywhere, we offer a service where we'll shuttle you through this process, and it's going to cut about a year out of the timeline. Because we've established consistent vendors we know always show up the right way, always get you the things on time, always turns out the first time, rather than dicking around trying to find Is this vendor a good vendor? Are they not a good vendor? Are they going to show up the right way? Are they going to show up with the right timelines? Is the product going to be good once I get it? So we cut all of that question out by simply going to go-to vendors that we've established relationship with. But ultimately, this isn't rocket science. You can figure out how to do it. If you want to take it on your own, by all means, it'll probably take you about a year longer. But if you've got a year and you've got somebody to dedicate to it, like, we're going to give you the keys to the kingdom. We'll show you exactly how we do it. But before we get there, let's talk a little bit about pros and cons, guys. I mean, we've talked a lot about the pros and the savings. What do you guys feel like are some of the cons with creating your own energy drink, or the cons to working with soda guns? Because it's not all rosy, right? Nothing in business is. There's always pros and cons.
I would say that, I mean, the first one that you're going to run into, especially if you're a smaller, if you've only got a few shops, is your distribution method. Obviously, this does require you to have a way to distribute these around your locations and somewhere to store them.
Yeah.
So if you don't already have a local distribution hub you work with, I would recommend that. With us, we had, we stuck with I wouldn't call them mom and pop, but they weren't a nationwide or a corporate distribution, coffee distribution hub.
It wasn't Cisco, right? Like, we're not using something that's like,
yeah, it wasn't like FSA or Cisco. Yeah. But we had been with them for so many years, and we had grown with them, and they were with us since we only had one location, grew with us. So we had a huge amount of buying power with them, huge amount of leverage with them. We said, hey, I mean, you guys are kind of already delivering all of our other stuff. Could we pay you a nominal fee to store these in your warehouse and let us order them from you, just like we would order our syrups and our cups and our napkins and all that? And they said, sure, we'll charge you a couple bucks a box. We'll store them here. We'll deliver them. We'll add a delivery fee of these, bag in the boxes, and Shazam. That was pennies on the dollar when it came to the ultimate savings. But we didn't have to worry about, going and getting a warehouse and storing, a semi truck full of bag in the boxes. We sort of just kind of worked with who we were working with already. So it was a con at first until we thought through and actually, again, talk to our vendor, because you should always be doing is talking to your vendors.
Right.
Chances are, if you're working with, a sort of mom and pop shop too, like that too, they'll say the same thing. Well, shoot, yeah, I mean, we're already sending this to you. We're already delivering to you. Yeah, we'll tack on a delivery fee and deliver these too. They want to make money, you want a product, and they're there to service that. So that's just a piece that you'd have to think through if this is the route you want to go.
Yeah, no, I think storage is a big one, and storage is like delivery is a big one. And depending on how you're doing delivery right now, I mean, we evolved to end up getting a big warehouse that became part of our roastery, that we ended up taking that back from that particular distribution house, because it became an efficiency we could take in house. But so there's a way you can evolve that and even cut those costs out. But just like Ben said, that is within the number that's factored down here. When you look at this 35 cents or 17 cents, we factored in not only shipping, but $3 a case to the store. So that all is already in these numbers. And I think that the beauty of that is we're still talking about 17 cents per can, which is insane. Drew, what else?
I'd say another potential con is customer rollout. So if you're using a Lotus or using a Red Bull or using some other popular name out there, and you can't quite get it identical, if that's what the goal is, how are you going to roll this out with your customers? How is the script going to go with the baristas? Are you going to switch it out immediately? Or are you going to switch it out over time? So something to think about is exactly how you're going to dress it up and give it to the customers, and whether or not you think that's going to go over well. And for us, it went over pretty well. I know we did have some controlled tests that we did, and the customers ended up liking the product more, which is, this is a huge benefit. It's not something that you necessarily expect out the gate when you're serving Red Bull for 8 years, 9 years, and you switch to something of your own. But that is always a potential thing that can happen. And when you are working with the ingredients in the flavor house, the way that you serve it, whether or not you blend it, whether or not you have like a slushy machine or a soda gun, you are in control of every aspect of it. So the quality of the product going out the window is something you're in control of as well. And so it can be a con. But once you learn to work with the product that you have, and you learn to, actually customize the way that you want to do it. That's why the iterations are important that were mentioned earlier, iteration 1 through 25 or 40 or however many we went through before we decided on one. It's important to know exactly what you're going to give your customers, because you can dress it up in a way that is an easy and beautiful rollout rather than kind of a train wreck.
I think to that, Drew, that's a super good point. Thank you for that. I think that there's probably, so we did go through a bunch of iterations on sampling it, right? And do blind tests, like bring in your people, like put the bandanas on them, let them take drinks. Don't let them know what you're tasting. Like let them make like get a case study of your own of who likes the flavor of this. What, this one's Red Bull, this one. They'll get you as close as they possibly can get. This one's fruitier, this one's not carbonated enough. You can game all those things. But I would say when it comes to rolling it out to your customers, like a gradual rollout is great, where it's like, hey, my first step in this is if you've got Red Bull on your menus now, let's take that out. Like let's change your menus to say whatever your coffee brand is, energy drink, Roasters energy drink. Like in that way, whatever you start using for your base doesn't even matter anymore, right? Like it doesn't even matter what your base is because all you called it was a Roasters energy drink. So if you switch out your base, your people can't say, well, you said it's Red Bull and this isn't Red Bull, and they can chip their teeth at it. So I'd say gently roll out a menu change when it comes to name. If you want to name your own energy drink, for Roasters, it was Rebel. Name it, brand it, do whatever you want to do. But if you don't want to even go that far, just call it whatever your coffee brand name is, energy drink, and then just subtly substitute the base. But I will say this, realize this is there's so much shiz that goes in that cup other than energy drink. Like there's so many flavors, like you're mixing so many different things. So if you've got to increase your flavor count, if you've got to increase some other different things to compensate, by the time you're giving somebody a cup of something out your window, very, very rarely are they tasting pure what you've been tasting at the beginning, right? All your samplings, nobody's getting a sampling like what you're getting. You know what I'm saying? Like they've got so much flavor mixed into that thing, it's a totally different thing. So I know we had to compensate in some different ways. We ended up going with a little bit less sweet version of energy drink because we knew we were going to compensate the sweetness in the syrups. And obviously all those things are taken into consideration when you do some of the things we taught you on Coffee Experts Club, evaluating your menu, determine what goes into your cup count, like as far as what your true profit is on a cup, like all those different things, you got to account for your syrups versus your energy drinks. But I think, and all be all, slow, gradual rollout. And if you're really nervous about it, roll it out at one store at a time. But I'd encourage you, like, however you do it, realize you are going to get some negativity. People are going to go, this doesn't taste right, cha, 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 like they chip their teeth. But science tells us people's palates change. So whatever they remembered your energy drink tasting like a month ago, 3 months from now, they're not even going to remember what that other one tasted like. All they're going to remember is energy drink that tastes like what they're giving now. And I will say this. So Drew and I were just up at Coffee Fest in October, and talking about energy drinks, talking about creating energy drinks. One of the coolest things being at Coffee Fest, I think for us, was we're not selling anything. All we're selling you is on you. Are you ready to take a step forward for you? If this isn't the right time in your business, then don't take the step now. But once you're ready for that, and just so everybody knows, the way we do it at Collab Team, we just take a percentage of realized savings, right? So we don't even make money if you don't save money. So for us, it's take a gamble on yourself. Are you ready to invest in your own energy drink? Awesome. If you use us, then we're going to take a percentage of whatever realized savings, whatever you're paying for Red Bull and whatever you end up paying for your own, whatever that delta is, that difference, we take a percentage of that for the first year, and then it's all yours. But I think that whether you use us, whether you use your own, I think it was so cool being at Coffee Fest and to hear people walk by and to see the light bulb turn on of, oh, wait a minute, you're just selling me on me. And then one of the coolest thing was I got a little brave this time. I actually, I reserved the booth directly across from Red Bull. It was a little bit of a ballsy move, but the coolest thing about it was people would come by theirs to taste their energy drink, come over and taste ours, and they'd be like, I actually like yours better. And they would want to know if they could buy it from us, and I just told them, we're not an energy drink distributor. We're here to create energy. This is our case study. This was from Roasters Coffee. This is their proprietary. We're just showing you how it could taste if you want a Red Bull equivalent. And when it was, the one that we created for Roasters didn't have as much of an aftertaste, which people loved, and they liked the blend we came up with. So I think it's cool because people's palates change. And if you can just introduce them to concepts slow, I think that, you're going to get some negative feedback. I know the owner at Roasters got real stressed the first month we rolled it out because he felt like he was hearing all this negative chatter come back. But Ben and I ran the numbers, and the truth was that first month of rollout, we actually grew in energy drinks versus the year before that, which numbers don't lie, right? my anxiety lies, my feelings lie, my worry about my social media presence lies, right? But numbers don't lie. So if it's this number last year and we grow it by X percentage, that means no matter how many people are complaining, more people like it than don't like it. So I think just the realization of there is going to be that subject to change. So
yeah, I would definitely, to piggyback off of that, I know the brand recognition is huge for coffee shop owners. And I know a lot of owners think that my customers get this energy drink because it says Red Bull on my menu, or it says Lotus, or it says Rockstar. They're getting it because of the brand. And I would just say, no, they are not. You'll have very loud brand ambassadors of Red Bull. Everyone knows that guy who comes through and he's like, "You don't have Rockstar? I'm going across the street." That's one of the 500 people who will buy that because they don't care about the brand.
Yeah.
Does it wake me up? Does it taste like strawberries and cream? I don't care who makes it. I'll drink that. So don't get stuck on the fact that it's not, if it doesn't say Red Bull, I'm afraid they won't buy it. No, if it tastes like strawberries and cream and it wakes them up, your customers don't care if it comes from Red Bull or Rockstar or Lotus or anywhere else like that.
I will say too, remember this, your customers are loyal to you. They like you. That's why they're coming there every damn morning, right? That's why they come there every afternoon. That's why they come there when they're dropping Joey off at school and when they're picking him back up. Like, right, your customers love you. So here's the thing. This is what I would really advocate for is have some fun with this. Like, ramp it up. Hey, we're creating our own energy. Have you heard we're creating our own energy drink? Did you know we're creating our own energy drink? Hey, we're cutting out the man. We're not doing this. This is Roasters energy drink. Your Roasters, you're gonna love this. And man, you'll be surprised at the energy you can start putting, like hearing your customers starting to get excited. Hey, when's that coming out? Hey, you've been talking about that. When's that coming? Like, slow drip the concept to people because people want to champion you and people want to be like, that came from our town. That's our town's energy drink. You can really lean into that. And I think Roasters did a really good job at think local, think like this is Tri-City coffee. This is Tri-City energy drinks. This is like, and when you can start really championing that in your people, because really it comes down to serving people, loving people, right? They're going to get coffee somewhere. The reason they come to you is the way you're treating them, probably, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, because coffee is pretty much coffee. Like, we all like to brag about how our coffee tastes better than that guy up the street, or our roast is unique to us. Whatever, that's fine, and maybe it is. But I will say this: people probably come to you because they like your baristas, they like your people, they like the way you're serving them, they like your product is good enough for them to come back and keep having the conversations with your folks. You know what I mean? So if you're loving on customers the right way, they're going to want to champion you because you've been loving on them the right way. So I think just remember, people are probably going to be even more excited about your energy drink than you are, and they don't even understand the savings. They just are excited about you having your own brand because that feels badass. And there's something about just the confidence of putting a cup out your window of, this is mine. I bought this. I made this. This is my thing I'm putting out the window, just like your beans, just like your coffee. And so for the purist out there that's wrestling, realize there's still that same pride in what you're putting out your window because there is craft behind it. You decided, you made the ingredient list. This is your thing. So I think there's some coolness to that.
Absolutely.
Another con I would say is some people might say, last thing I have space for is another freaking machine, man. What are you, nuts? Like, we're talking about, we got 500 and 900 square feet. Where am I going to put another machine? I would say the best place you have to put another machine is wherever you've been stacking all those cases of Red Bull, right? Like, you've been stacking cases for the longest time. As soon as you move to a bag in the box, the beauty of a bag in the box is you get, what did we decide the multiplier was, Ben? It's 152 cans per bag in a box. Per 2-gallon bag in a box, you get 152 cans worth of energy drink. So do that math in your head for a minute. How many cases of Red Bull do you have to keep stocked every single day to be able to facilitate your people? How many times are you having Columbia Distribution have to drop off another case of Red Bull instead of, no, we supply our own cases of bag in a box and 152 cans per case of bag in a box. So where you're going to get the space is where you've been stacking all those cans of Red Bull. Because I think if you can put a machine someplace, the machines aren't big. You know, we created one for a coffee fest that we could just put on a little like 3x2 countertop that we could roll around so we could show people how easy it was to place this kind of, it's all stacked in there. It's all ready to go. That's including the carbonator. Like, it's all part of it. So I think realization of, I know you're worried about a machine, like another machine in your shop. I will say this, let's talk about machine costs for a second, because let's take all the fear off the table. So we're talking about for machine costs, averages, this is a multiplier, so $2,200 per machine. So think about machines, I mean, right, like, what other machine in your store are you paying $2,000 for? Like, not, I mean, so much machinery in coffee shops is so much more than $2,000. And I'll say for all the soda gun machines that we had for these, wasn't 11 stores by the time we were done. We got to 16 stores by the end. I think we had maybe 3 or 4 machines fail. And at that cost per unit, like, buy a couple extras, keep them in storage, like, make sure you can swap them out. Like, the other nice thing about these are very simple machines. These aren't complex machines. We're not talking about super complex mechanical machines. Anybody servicing the machines now can clearly service this. So I think just take some of the fear out of the room about machine costs. Not expensive, not complex. And I would say preventative maintenance, pretty simple. Drew, you want to talk about preventative maintenance for a minute? Because that is a con. People are going to be like, these tubes keep jamming, these soda guns themselves get sticky, the buttons aren't working. You want to talk about that for a minute?
Yeah, I'd say the preventative maintenance aspect is actually something that is so simple it can be performed by our closing baristas most of the time. You don't need to pull the machine apart. You don't need to take off, open the hood and get inside of it to do the preventative maintenance. Mostly the maintenance comes with soaking the actual head of the soda gun and the soda water that comes right out of the head of the gun in like a blender or some container that you have. And that's going to maintain a vast majority of the problems that you're going to have with those machines, because it is the buttons can stick, but just like anything, if you don't clean it, it's going to get sticky. And the coffee shops, as everybody here knows, everything gets sticky if you don't clean it. The other maintenance that comes along with it, as far as preventative goes, is just as simple as hooking up the bag-in-a-box to the actual machine. So, you want to run some fluids through it to clean it, but it's not any more complex than popping off that bag-in-a-box and popping on, a new bag-in-a-box. Instead, you're just dunking it into a little bin of cleaning fluid and running a cycle through, and it's clean. And that's basically the really hard and fast lesson on how to do preventative maintenance on those machines. Very, very simple. And the return on that is a really high quality product that you have full control over.
Yeah, you have to look at, look at similar industries. Anybody who runs a bar or cocktail bar or restaurant is working with these machines 24/7.
Yeah.
And they're doing less than the amount of volume you'd be doing with it. And they know how to maintain it, they know how to clean it, they know how to keep it, technically working. So all you have to do is take that savings again and create that technician position within your company. And if your local dive bar, your local sports bar can handle one of these machines, I think a $50K a year technician that you in a position that you create could handle that for you.
Yeah, it's good. Are there any other cons worth not thinking of, guys? I think we've dealt with delivery, we've dealt with storage of all of that bag-in-a-box. We talked about storage inside the store, adding another machine, complexity about preventative maintenance. I feel like those are really the only cons. Maybe some people are wondering how long the shelf life is on these. About a year is what the shelf life is on bag-in-a-box. So we're telling you, we're advising that you buy 3 to 6 months worth of quantity. So you should never deal with this thing is going to go out of, it's going to expire on you. I will say, some people get excited about this with onesie twosie coffee stands. They've got one location, they maybe open their second location. I would always say at onesie twosies, there's better places to put your money out of the gates than to lock up. Let's drop this down to like 2 stores. You can probably spend $26,000 someplace better out of the gates in your first 1 or 2 stores. You're still working on management solutions. You're still working on your POS solutions. You're still working on, there's probably some better spots you can put this. Maybe roastery, like think about buying a roaster, putting somebody on roasting. Like I would say those are things I would always advocate for tackling before an energy drink. You can do it whenever you want. I would just say it starts making better sense at 3 stores because you start feeling a little bit more flex. Maybe you've got a cash cow of a location that's really killing it. The rest of your stores are doing well enough. So you've actually begin to feel the efficiencies, and maybe you're sharing your labor, or maybe you're getting a better buying power out of your vendors because you're buying it 3 times the volume. So you bang down your cogs as much as you can. That's usually when I would say is the time to be thinking energy drinks, because then you're at an efficiency where it's really you're also going to really start feeling the savings at three times the store. Let's say even this just was the combo. Let's say this was your spread. You had one high volume store, one mid volume store, one low volume store. You're talking about almost $8,000 a month in savings times 12. That's like $100K a year right out of the gates that you're going to feel straight into your bank account that you can be socking away and put towards the loan for your next building that you want to open, if you don't want to buy it straight away. So I think that there's some really good efficiencies that come at around 3 stores.
I would like to mention real fast the bricks kits that you're going to want to have.
Yeah.
Come prepared with a bricks kit. That's it's a little device that you can use to measure the syrup to soda ratio.
Yeah.
And the machine it can be sensitive in that aspect. So because of the quality of the product, a little bit more soda or a little bit more syrup can change the flavor of it. And so teaching somebody in each shop how to bricks, it's not a complex process. It's a little plastic tube that tells you exactly what's coming out of your machine. So just knowing the ins and outs of exactly how much you want in there, and then teaching somebody at each store does the job. It's not really complex. It's very, very simple, but they can be sensitive.
Yeah, that's good. And it's 3-to-1 ratio. So 3 parts water, 1 part soda. Soda, like syrup. So it's good. That's a good one, Drew. All right, so let's look at the smart sheet real quick. So obviously, if you've been around any amount of time, I'm going to show you a smart sheet at some point. You're going to be like, bro, why are you trying to blow up my brain? The reason why I want to show you this is just to show you different phases. So I would say this is our internal process, right? This is us onboarding somebody. The beauty of a smart sheet for me is that I can put in dates and tell people when they can expect to see what. So let's say today was the day that you decided you want to start energy drinks on your own. It populates out the whole sheet for you on what you can expect and when you can expect to have it in hand. So you're going to see here, we're talking about probably about a 6-month process. Now you can make that faster. This is receive your ingredients for this next batch. So it's probably here is where it's actually in your hand. So maybe like 5 months. 5 or 6 months is probably the fair amount of time. I've seen it as fast as 3 months. It just depends on how long you take in this initial process. So, we bring you in, that takes about a month to get you introduced to all your vendors. All these vendors are your vendors, right? They're not contracting with us, they're contracting with you. We're just become your project manager for your product development for this engagement. So then we start working with your brand design, what you want it to look like. That usually takes a little bit of time. Usually you've got different colors you want to come back like this, whatever. That can be working in tandem with your creation house process, so you initiate the project with the creation house, and then DrinkWorks is just our brand for Collab Team that does it. So they send you your first iteration, that usually takes a couple weeks. Second iteration usually takes maybe a couple weeks more after that. And then they have to formulate it based upon whatever you decide on doing. They create the specs. They give you your ingredient manual to the co-packer, because the creation house doesn't make it for you. They just make your ingredient batch list and some of the key ingredients that then is sent to the co-packer. The co-packer is the outfit that's going to actually be putting everything together for you. So they're, if you do cans, this is where they would split ways. The co-packer actually provides bag in a box. If you're doing cans, you'll also have to work with a can manufacturer. Co-packers do not equal can manufacturers. So then you're talking about 3 entities you're working with instead of just 2. But in this scenario, co-packers are the ones that handle it. So it starts the same time, you're filling out your paperwork, you're getting everything dialed in, and then they're just sitting to wait for these guys to finish their specs and get them what they need. And then they can begin to create. And that usually takes, like it says here, probably about 6 weeks for creation. I've seen it happen as fast as 2 weeks. So I just so I'm giving you conservative numbers here so nobody gets nervous, but all end to end, door to door, this is your fill date and the oversight. And then equipment usually takes, right now equipment's a little bit tough, shipping's a little bit tough. We all know that's happening out there, but these are simple machines. We work with a great outfit that provides them a pretty good time. So you order them in advance, it usually takes a few months to get them there. And then distribution, coming up with your distributor agreement. If you're going to do it in-house, you can ignore all of this stuff, right? But coming up with where they're going to ship to, how it's going to work out, how they're going to handle your inventory. And then once you get to that spot, realizing when you need to order your next batch. So I think that's for us, how it works is, creation house, coming up with your batch. Co-packer, are you going to do cans or you're not going to do cans? If it's just co-packer, they've got it all. They get the ingredients from the creation house. They add some ingredients of their own. Then they have a product they can ship to either you directly or to your distribution house and then out your door. So I would say door to door, anywhere from 3 to 6 months, and it follows that process. through our smart sheet. Do you guys have any questions about that? Just in case you haven't seen a bunch of us talking about smart sheets yet. In our smart sheets, there's a bunch of, you get your own smart sheet when we kick off your project. So there's a bunch of things in here that talks to you about the particularities of, every step of the way, and how we do things. There are also assets that are attached to each one. This is an example of, the energy drink meetings that we've had in the past, so that you know what you should be talking about with your people. We kind of just shuttle you all the way through the process. That's the benefit of having a project management firm that does your product development. But once again, everybody, you guys are all smart people. If you're watching the show, you're all working on your own personal development. You can figure this stuff out. It's just going to take you, if it takes us who do it end over end all the time, 3 to 6 months, just factor in learning curve for you. You got to find the right vendors. You got to build the right relationships. They've got to trust you. You've got to get down how sampling works. You got to get down who does it go to after your creation house. The creation house doesn't usually know the co-packer. You got to put them in connection. They've got to come to a good working agreement. So you're creating all the connections, which just takes time. There's no way to fast track create connections. So do you guys have any questions on this?
I would just say that 3 to 6 months is actually a good amount of time, because a move like this is a pretty big move in your company, and you got to think about all the contingencies of things that we mentioned earlier on today. How are you going to roll it out? What are you going to name it? What do you want it to taste like? Do you want a bag in a box? If you want to do a soda gun, where are you going to put them in your stand? They're all things that you have time to plan. 3 to 6 months is a good amount of time to plan those things. And the more time you sit and you think about exactly the rollout, the more perfect the rollout is going to be.
Yeah, I love that.